bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. With Irish Jim O'Connell there and Scotty Jack McDonald, there's Hunky Frederick Herschel getting tight, but that's alright. There's Happy German Fritzy there with Frenchy getting tipsy, and even Joe the Gypsy knows it's Saturday tonight. Now when Marianne and Mabel come to join us at the table and tell us how the bingo went tonight, we'll look a fright. But if they won the money, we'll be laughing up the honey boys, 'cause everything is funny for it's Saturday tonight. Yeah, the girls head out the bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. Ah, pleasure. Drink the loot we borrowed and recuperate tomorrow, 'cause everything is wonderful tonight. We had a good flight. We ate the dilly pickle and we forgot about the nickel, and everybody's tickled for it's Saturday tonight. The songs that we'll be singing, they might be wrong, but they'll be ringing, and all the lights of town are shining bright, and we're all tight. We'll get to work on Monday, but tomorrow's only Sunday, and we're out to have a fun day for it's Saturday tonight. Yeah, the girls head out to bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo.
I'm Al Schick, and Woodsy and I curled together in the Thursday Night Men's League at the Highland for probably the last 6 or 7 years. And I suppose I got to know Woodsy right after he moved to Regina and started hanging around the curling clubs. I was sitting there last night having a big fat whiskey, trying to think of a specific Woodsy story to share. And it occurs to me that I guess one of the things I'll always remember about Woodsy is the stories he had to tell, and he had an endless supply of them. We host an annual Christmas party, and we have a reasonably well-stocked bar, and Woodsy set himself up an arm's length or two away, and you could always tell where he was by the flock of people around him being entertained by the stories he was telling. Thursday night club games, we'd go upstairs to rehydrate after we were done, and you could always count on a couple of good stories from Woodsy, and you look forward to them. So I suppose that's one of the things I'll always think of first when I think of Woodsy. So you'll be missed, brother.
Been racking my brain over the last week trying to pick out the perfect memory, the perfect story to represent what Woodsy meant to me. But as I was doing this, it dawned on me that there wasn't one story, there wasn't one memory that encapsulated what Woodsy meant to me. It was the sum of the entire time that I knew him. Woodsy was a fierce friend. He was kind, and he was genuine, and he was thoughtful. He seemed to always know when I needed words of encouragement or a hug or to make me laugh, and he made me laugh. He made me laugh all the time. I used to love going out with Woodsy, whether it was an event with the radio station, a Pats game, whether, he took me to my first experience at the Briar Patch, if you could believe it, or, when we would go out for dinner at Memories, because people were drawn to Woodsy, just naturally drawn to him. I've never seen anything like it with anyone else. People just wanted to come up to him and say hello. They wanted to say they watched him on Sportsline and he inspired their love of sports. They wanted to say they agreed with his rant about trains on the ring road that morning when they heard him on the radio station, or just to talk about the Rider game or how the team was looking. It was an incredible thing, and anyone who had the privilege of being in Woodsy's orbit knows exactly what it feels like, to be part of it. He made them all feel like they were part of it. I looked at the last message I got from Woodsy, and it was on my birthday. He wished me a happy birthday, and I've known him 5 years, and he never ever missed wishing me a happy birthday. You may think that's a small thing, but I actually think that it's a really big thing. Woodsy was a very bright light, and the world is less not having him in it. I'm sending all of my love and my condolences to Nicole and to Chris and to Woodsy's family, both blood and chosen. We all miss him very much.
Hi, it's Joanne and Barry Rudd here. Just wanting to pass on our deepest condolences to Nicole and Chris and Anne-Marie and the rest of Warren's family. Just letting you know how much he meant to us and how much we're going to miss him.
I started working with Woodsy in 1988. When I started working at STV, it was such a fun and exciting place to work in those early years. We were a young staff, small staff, but we socialized and did everything together outside of work. We played hockey, softball, curled, and golf together. We were like a family. And Warren and Anne-Marie and Nicole were always a part of that family, attending all these events. My fondest memories of working with Woody, though, of course, was the many years we covered the Saskatchewan Tankard Provincial Curling Finals. It was our annual trip to various Saskatchewan towns, and we'd roar in and set up the STV mobile and try to cover live curling for a few days to determine our Brier rep. But it was thrilling to be on that crew every year, and we all had a ton of fun at these events, and no one had more fun than Woodsy. He practically knew everyone in the game in Saskatchewan and in Canada, and he had a story about most of them. The Kleenex caper comes to mind for any of those in the know. One of my favorite stories was the one year we were in Yorkton, and Woody, of course, might have been at the patch fairly late and maybe got a ride home with one of the leader post guys. I think it was Murray. And I think they must have been in a heavy discussion about who knows what. Murray drops Woody off at his hotel and drives away. And Woodsy gets out and waves goodbye and realizes he's not at his own hotel. So he had the long walk in the cold to find his actual hotel. But Woody had no enemies. His only agenda was to cover sports for a living and then spend a few hours at a club or a party later to discuss it with anybody who wanted to listen. I'll miss being able to text him and find out what's going on with the riders or anything else going on in the sports world. But he was very much aware of other more important things in life. He adored his kids and his grandkids, and he was always quick to ask you how you or your significant others were doing. And he always had an open ear and an open mind. And he was always that guy you could go to and actually have a serious chat about life with and the challenges that we all face from time to time. And he and I did just that, a couple of times. He came down to Arizona and we did nothing but golf and went to NFL and NBA, NHL games, play more golf. And I took him back. He met some of my neighbors in the park, and he would strike up a conversation with them like he knew them all along. He was just one of those guys that was so easy to be around. And I had so much fun that week, and I'll never forget it. And we will never forget Woodsy.
And we look forward to a celebration of life when the world gets back to normal.
When we can get back together. Wear your mask.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, it's Bob and Lynette, and we just wanted to share a couple thoughts about Warren. I guess one of the things I'll never forget is just his openness and his big laugh. He filled a room with his laughter and his joke telling. And he was a sports nut. He loved his sports, but he could talk on many other topics. And he was always somebody who would take the time to listen to you, whether you were, working with him or if you just happened to run into him at the bar or whatever. He always took time to talk. I remember one time we were at Fuddruckers having supper, like as a crew, and a little kid came over and asked him for his autograph, and he said, "Sure, I'll sign it, whatever." And he took the time to engage with the little guy and kind of ask him what his favorite sports were and stuff. And we kind of were teasing him afterwards, ooh, big shot. But that's just the kind of person he was.
I'll always remember going on shoots with Woody. Taylor Field, doing riders, doing pats. He was always so much fun on shoots and always treated everybody so nicely. And when we first started at Global, when it was STV, we all, every weekend, nobody had a family there, pretty much. So we would all go over to somebody else's house for a party on a weekend, and Woodsy was always there and always lots of fun at these things. Probably one of the people that had the most fun at these events. And yeah, great memories.
Yeah, super guy.
Super guy.
One thing that Bob and I both have talked about in the last little while here is the whole idea of how much fun he was at a party. And when he turned 50 and we were getting ready to leave.
Yeah, dancing.
He was dancing with Mikey.
Dancing with Mikey, the dog. So it was pretty funny. It was a really nice way to leave a party. Just
Yes.
let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that we'll hold on to. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's going to be missed for sure.
He will be.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Take care, everybody.
Hi, it's Daryl Davis. I was starting to think when I first met Warren Woods, and it must have been 1987. I was a sports writer at the Regina Leader Post, and Warren had just come to town as a sportscaster with a new TV station, STV. He introduced himself at a press conference for Alan Eagleson, who was the NHL Players Association executive director. Eagleson was under fire for things that eventually led to him being charged, thrown out of the Order of Canada, thrown out of the Hockey Hall of Fame. And one of the reporters there obviously had asked Eagleson what was going on. Woodsy did it. That's when we started calling him Woodsy, I'm sure. The only time I probably ever called him Warren was the very first time we met. But Woodsy asked Eagleson about it. He grilled him. He really asked the right questions. And it said to me that Woodsy's a journalist. He's got the background in media. He loves sports, and he had the guts to ask those questions. And it happened for a long time. We were competing against each other for stories for decades. It was always great to see him, but I always was wondering because he would outscoop a lot of us. And the reason why is he knew everybody. Everybody liked Woodsy. He got to know the players, the coaches, the organizers, the curlers, the people on the golf course. And he would get scoops because of that. He would beat us to the stories. Eventually, I think he knew more people than I did. And I grew up in Regina. So he really worked his networks. And it was tough sometimes competing against him because of those things, because everybody knew Woodsy. The last 8 years after I retired, just a few years after I had retired from the Leader Post and Woodsy left STV, which became Global TV, and joined CGME, we were on a radio show together with Jamie Nye. Our portion was called The Wise Guys, and I've joked about this quite often that perhaps we should have been called The Three Stooges because we weren't always wise. We had a lot of fun talking about things. We talked about things that we were passionate about the Toronto Maple Leafs, which Woodsy loved. He hated the train crossings in Regina. He hated preseason football. So we would chat and we'd talk about music. He knew every Stompin' Tom Connors song, the lyrics to it, and he would sing it at the breaks, and we would be laughing. He loved old rock and roll. He'd be playing the drums in his flannel shirts on the commercial breaks. It was great being with Woodsy. We became good friends, and that's what Jamie Nye and Woodsy and I were like on the show. We'd go golfing together. We'd talk about things. We'd talk about our families. We'd talk about things we were doing. I got to hear Woodsy's stories about going to see Chris and family in Kelowna and seeing the grandchildren. The trip he made to London with Nicole just a couple of months before that bombing, and he said, Nicole and I were just there where that bomb took place. So we would share all those times. We'd go for a beer. We'd go for supper, especially when the reporters from out of town came in to cover the Canadian Football League. We would have to invite Woodsy for dinner with everybody, and that's how he got to know all the reporters across the country too. Obviously from curling, a lot of them knew him too, but everybody got to know Woodsy, and everybody liked him. Everybody enjoyed him, and that's why so many of us are so sad to have lost him. The one nice thing about the memorial service that we attended online was sharing stories about Warren and being able and reminding us that he wasn't just ours, that he wasn't just the Regina sports community's Warren Woods. He belonged to everybody across the country. It was good to see his family. It was good to see his friends from all across the country, and to remind us that his roots were everywhere. We kind of enveloped him, of course, because he became a part of my family. It seemed like my sons Austin and Tanner loved him. They called him Uncle Woodsy. We'd have him here for holiday dinners. My girlfriend Susan thought the world of Woodsy too, and we would just. It was fun to see him. He was the type of guy you would always like to see, because he was always in a good mood. Nobody hated him. And playing golf with him was a challenge because it was so slow. He'd talk to everybody and he'd line up putts forever, but it was so much fun hanging out with him and going for a beer afterwards. It's going to be tough not having him around. I know there's lots of people feeling the same way, missing Woodsy, thinking about him, telling stories about him. That's what we want to do. And I keep thinking back to the first time I met him, the years working against him, and the years working with him, and I realized that working with him was way, way, way better than working against him. Take care.
Well, what can a guy say about Woodsy? First time I met him, he showed up at rider practice late. He was dressed in denim on denim on denim. That was my first introduction to the guy that was going to be my boss in the sports department, but very quickly became my friend and my very good friend. Woodsy and I shared a lot of laughs over the years, up until and including our last text conversation. Somebody asked me, what'd you guys talk about? Well, he may have made an offside comment or two about how good looking his nurses were in the hospital when he was there. That was Woodsy. From beginning to end, he was true, he was genuine, and he was just such a very good friend who wore his heart on his sleeve and would do anything for his buds. And that's why he's so beloved. He was who he was. And as he would say, I think it was Popeye that said it, I am who I am. And that was Warren Woods, my dear friend.
Hi, I'm Don Saxon. I actually never started working with Warren until about the year 2013, but I knew of him back in 1984. That was my first year of college in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And Warren was working at CKPR Television. He was already doing sports there as I was going to broadcast school. And one of the things that I mentioned when I finally met Warren and started working with him was a bunch of us used to watch him on television, and his glasses were always crooked. And it was one of those things where we were having dinner or a breakfast one morning, and I said to him, we used to watch you in Thunder Bay. He goes, oh yeah. He says, oh yeah. He said, just getting started back then. I said, why did you never straighten your glasses? He laughed. He goes, he said, I don't know how many damn people called me to say, hey, your glasses are crooked. I'd straighten them before I went on air, and I could not get them straight. So it was kind of a little joke. That was a great thing about Woodsy was going out for breakfast with him. We used to do it after the morning show quite often. And the great thing about it is he always paid for himself, which was good, because he ate quite a bit. But the other thing is, you didn't really have an in-depth conversation with Woodsy when you were in a public place. In fact, you hardly had a conversation with him at all, because the amount of people that would walk up to our table and just start talking in the mid, I'm surprised he ever ate at all for the amount of talking that he did when we were out. And then to get out of the restaurant's another thing, because you're constantly walking by tables and, hey, how you doing? And, hey, good to see you. Oh, yeah. Woodsy and I had really good times working on air together. We shared a passion and a deep love for the Maple Leafs. And there aren't many Leafs fans around where we were, but we shared a love of the Leafs, and we shared a love of baseball, although we didn't share the love of our teams, because I'm a Red Sox fan and he was a Yankees fan. So while the battles we used to have when the Red Sox were winning the World Series in the mid-decade were great, because I never had a chance to do that for a long time. Some of the other things I remember about Woodsy is when he used to talk about his early days as a disc jockey, and that's one of the things that I talked about with him too. He goes, when did you decide that you wanted to do news? And I said, it's when I decided that I wanted to be a disc jockey. I said, I was just not good at it. And he just had this one saying all the time where he'd put on his his Warren DJ voice, his Woodsy DJ voice, and he'd go, it may be old and it may have mold, but it's solid gold. And I'm like, that was so Woodsy. I was heartbroken when I found out that Woodsy didn't make it. And I want you to know that I always had faith that he would, because when I first found out that he was in hospital, I texted him every day, or almost every day. And I talked about everything, just to say hi, just to tell him what I was doing, just to tell him what the Yankees were doing that day, or the Red Sox, or with the Leafs, or the car I purchased, just anything. And I really thought that Woodsy would answer me those texts. So I wrote him one final text just to say that Sam had called me and he didn't make it. But I am a better man for knowing him. He made me a really good person. He made me a much better broadcaster. He was just so down to earth. Although I thanked him for that, as a matter of fact, I did. I went out for dinner with, actually it was breakfast with Sam and Woodsy before I left for the island. And I thanked them both for making me a better person. My condolences, your family, for the loss of Warren.
I don't know why I found this so hard to do, but I actually think it's because I'm having trouble accepting the fact that my buddy Warren's not around anymore. It's been so tough through all these troubled times with COVID. Not only do we lose our friends, lose some relatives, but we also don't get a chance to gather and mourn and celebrate somebody's life. And I think that's what hurts. I think it'd be nice to get around and tell a bunch of stories about our buddy Warren, have a few tears, maybe a couple of beer, and reminisce about a good friend. I miss him dearly, and I hope all these videos will help with everyone's grief that they're feeling. My best memories of Warren were always around the bar at a curling rink. We had more fun, a few beer deep, and telling stories and kai-hiing, and I always remember he always got a sparkle in his eye when he started talking Hackner stories. He was a big fan of Al Hackner's and a good friend of Al Hackner's, and I always got a kick out of that. My other thing with Warren was always got a kick out of his quirky food habits. It was always made me laugh when he started talking about dill pickles or eating some food with plastic forks. He was quite a man, infectious laugh, booming voice that would fill a room. I loved them dearly. To Chris and Nicole, I feel so sorry for you to have lost your dad at such a young age, and I hope that all these stories will help console you, and I hope all your good memories of your dad will get you through your grief. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to say a few words about our good friend Woodsy. I met him back in the 80s when I was playing for Saskatchewan and he was in television. After our first interview, he said, let's go grab a beer, and that's where our friendship began. He was such a great broadcaster for so many years, but an even better person with such an optimistic look at the world and look at life. So much so that he thought his Toronto Maple Leafs would actually win at some point. I'm wearing Toronto Maple Leaf blue today in his honor. Great broadcaster for so many years, but an even better person. And one of the lasting memories I'll have of Woodsy was back in December, the last time I saw him, when we were at Greg Morgan's Christmas party and singing along to different country songs and playing guitar, and Woodsy was belting out every single word to Margaritaville, standing right beside me and telling stories with that great laugh. So Chris, Nicole, all his family members, stay strong, and let's celebrate your dad. Let's celebrate our friend. Let's celebrate the great teammate. Here's to Woodsy.
Okay, let me tell you a story about my friend Warren Woods. Woodsy, on the Green Zone, of course, pre and post game shows, we had to come up with Wandering Woodsy, because at the Lancaster Tap House, with his fellow council members at the Lancaster Tap House, every so often we would come back from commercial break on the post game show, And yes, maybe we had a drink or two during the post-game show. But we'd come back and all of a sudden we look over and go, where's Woodsy? And of course he's gallivanting around the Lancaster talking to people, and he'd look over and realize, oh, I'm supposed to be on the radio. But here's my favorite post-game story with Woodsy. And he's known for a few things. It's 11 o'clock. This is Sportsline. He's from Sudbury. He loves his Toronto Maple Leafs, and he hates trains. And one of the most epic rants, not only on trains, but on any subject we've ever heard on the post-game show, was a night when the Riders played at home. And the fans were held up leaving Mosaic Stadium because a train was passing the Elphinstone Crossing, which is right outside one of the gates of the new Mosaic Stadium. And Woodsy comes back from the stadium, and we're looking at the text line, Daryl and I in Belton, and Woodsy comes up with conspiracy theories and everything else that the trains are actually held there until the game ends, and then they send them through, and these guys on the trains, they just want attention just to show they're there, and they're going to hold people up, and he is going on and on and on in one of the most epic anti-train rants of all time. And Belton Johnson is just egging him on. You go, Woodsy. You tell him, Woodsy. And he keeps going, but it was that smirk, that smile in his eye that he knew he was just having a blast. And he always had a blast. And it was one of the most epic anti-train rants of all time. I can't even remember the game. All I remember from that game is Woodsy's train rant. That they actually held the trains at the crossing until the game ended. And then sent them through. I'll miss the rants. I'll miss the laughs. I'll miss the advice. I'll miss the photos of the grandkids. I'll miss Woodsy. We'll all miss Woodsy.
Hi, I'm Claire Hanna, and I was a friend of Woodsy's through the reporting world in Regina, and man, is he going to be missed. He just left such an impact on everybody, whether it was players he was interviewing, whether it was other members of the media like myself. He had amazing energy. He was so authentic. I want to say he always had a smile on his face, but I do recall times when he got really grumpy talking about the Riders and bad plays or something like that. But he walked into a room, you definitely knew he walked in because he just had a presence about him. And I'm gonna miss, I think the thing I'm gonna miss the most is every night before a Riders game, home game, we'd all gather at Memories. Woodsy never missed that, and it was just awesome to gossip with him, hear him talk about old Riders or curling stories, and just my deepest condolences to Chris, Nicole, and the rest of the Woods family. You know, your dad, your family member was just an amazing guy, and you know, we're all grieving with you.
Just wanted to start off briefly with giving my condolences to Woodsy's family and everyone on the call that was close with Woodsy. I can't remember Woodsy not being around in all of my time here. Just a fantastic human being and someone that would always make me laugh, but just loved our team and just wanted to give my condolences. Also just wanted to thank Rob Vanstone for his story yesterday. I think probably everyone's read it, but I want to just reach out to Rob and say, appreciate you sharing your story yesterday, Rob. I know it takes a lot to share that, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. So
I have so many fond memories of working with Woodsy for nearly 13 years at Global when I was anchoring the news and he was doing the sports. We spent a lot of time together, and I learned so much from him about how to, not take myself so seriously, because, man, he could tell a funny story and take things lightly. And I really learned that there's so much value in that, in enjoying life for the little things. And that is something that I learned from him, along with how to be a better broadcaster. I watched him. I used to be nervous at the start of the show because I'd think, oh, when sports was coming up, that Woodsy's not going to make it on set on time. But he would always be there because he knew how much time he needed. And he did it with perfection every night. He was such a natural and so authentic. And that's what made the show great. And that's why people loved him so much, because he was being Woodsy. What you saw is what you got. And I know everyone who knows him and loves him feels that same way, that he just had a special quality about him. And he was so good at what he did and such a good storyteller that when I came into that job, I knew nothing about sports. There was some sports balling happening, and I really couldn't tell you too much about anything. But after spending so much time sitting with him at the desk and listening to how he delivered the sports, I was interested and I remembered things. And suddenly people would say to me, oh, you really know a lot about sports. And it was all credit to Woodsy, because he was so good at what he did that you couldn't help but listen and be interested. And he told a great story. He was such a good broadcaster. I learned so much from him, and I've always thought so fondly of my time at Global and how lucky I was to get to sit next to somebody who was good at what they did and who was kind. And I learned a lot, and I sure enjoyed the time that I spent with him. And I know how much it meant to him to be proud of his kids and his love for his family, and he was just an all-around wonderful person. And he's going to be missed in a big, big way. I know it's been hard, and it's left a hole in my heart, like I know so many other people.
Hello, my name's Karen. I'm Warren's sister from Sudbury. And we have so many wonderful memories of our brother, and we had such a wonderful family life. It was the best. We're very, very fortunate that we had the life that we had. The one thing, I mean, it's just hard to pick one memory, but the one thing, if I could encapsulate everything, was his voice. His voice had that ability to calm and to soothe. And I remember when we were in kindergarten and we were walking to school, and I got stuck in a big snowbank, and the school bell rang, and he ran off and left me there. But he came back with help, and they pulled me out, and it was him saying, "It's okay, Karen, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Don't cry," you know. And later on, when I was a teenager, I was at summer camp, and I was saying this to Nicole. I was telling her and Chris this story that at summer camp, I had a transistor radio, and I was so homesick, and it was, very late at night, and I was crying, and over the airwaves came Warren's voice. I don't know why he was there. Probably, I guess maybe it was a summer job or a high school placement. But it was midnight. I think they gave him the midnight shift. And all of a sudden I hear, "This is Warren Woods, CKSO Radio Sudbury." And I just remember being so comforted by that. And years later, when I had my stroke, and he called, he gave me such words of encouragement. His voice always felt like home. He could calm me down immediately. It's going to be very hard not to hear his voice, but I have to say I'm so grateful that we have all these wonderful clips and videos, because now, I can hear his voice. But I think for me that is the biggest thing. I'm sorry. Just be at peace, my brother. Be at peace now. I will always hear your voice within my heart. There's no doubt in my mind that I will hear your voice. And I know it's you. And thank you for always calming me, for always saying the right things to me when I needed to hear them. Your voice always felt like home, and thank you for helping me to remember what home feels like. And I love you, God be with you. Know that you are loved and not forgotten. You will be missed. Go with God, Warren.
Hello, I'm Kirk Myers. I know Woodsy from the curling world, and man, he was a treasure. He always had an amazing story, a smile on his face. He made you laugh anytime you got to be around him. I got to know him kind of growing up. He worked alongside my father for all the Saskatchewan tankers, Lyle, and it was so cool getting to watch them. Woodsy was larger than life growing up. I remember that. And then as I grew up and started to see him at the curling rinks, it was amazing. He always had time for me. He always had stories. He always told me about the old days when he was working alongside my dad, and that was really, really cool. He's one of the guys that you always wanted to be around. You always wanted to kind of hang around because he made you feel good. He's going to be missed, that's for sure. He was a really special person. So my condolences to Nicole and Chris and the family. Woodsy's going to be a hole that's going to be hard to fill in the city of Regina and the sports world, that's for sure.
Hi, I'm Lyle Myers. I wanted to start by passing on my condolences to Nicole, Chris, and the rest of the family. I miss Warren deeply, and I can only imagine how difficult this time is for you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Your dad and I go back close to 25 years, maybe longer, and we did many curling events together. We covered cash fields, we covered, I believe, 20 tankers, we covered even curling on the radio, which we did for Briars and Scotties. Whether we had an audience or not, we didn't care. We just had fun like we did all the time. And one of the things that struck me is we must have had 1,000 laughs, or many thousand laughs, and not one dispute. I don't think that happens with too many people, and I give full credit to Warren because I dispute with most people. On reflection, I think one of the things I wanted to tell was a little story about your dad and really about who I seen from the time that I spent with him. Whether it was a CEO of a company down to the person opening the dressing room at our tankers, he would be instant friends with them. It didn't take more than a hello, 10 minutes, and they were chatting about something. I think of the influence your dad had in one of the stories that sticks out to me was we were in a small town somewhere in a very old hotel, motel actually, and we went to the front desk, and there was an older lady there that was very stern with me. She laid out the rules. There was a long list of them, and she made sure that we went through them together, and I was clear. And so I just stood back. Yes, I was clear. One of them even was we weren't allowed to play ball in the parking lot, which was in the middle of winter, and I thought it was a weird request, but we stood it. Warren walks up, and at that time he was smoking quite a bit, and she right away sensed that and went through the rules with him and made it very clear about smoking. So Warren chatted to her within 5 or 10 minutes. They were just going on and on and on and on. And as we left, Warren said, "Boy, that's going to be hard, this non-smoking." And as she walked out, she snuck up beside him a little bit and tapped him on his shoulder and said, "This isn't a non-smoking hotel, so you just smoke a little bit, okay?" And it really made me think about all the people that Warren was instantly bonded with. It's funny, I don't feel like he's gone actually. He has such a profound effect on me that every time that I walk into a curling rink and arena, I'll think of him yet. I'll feel like he's there. I'll smile. I'll think of all the great times we had. And I think upon that reflection is that many of us will be like that. Nicole and Chris, your dad will be a part of us all for a long time. I wanted to say again my condolences to you, and I wanted to say that we will celebrate his life many, many, many times at future tankers and events that we get together with his old friends and buddies. Thank you for this time. We're thinking of you.
Hi, I'm Murray McCormick. I'm an old-time friend of Warren Wood's, as you probably know. We both grew up in Sudbury, but we never met each other in Sudbury. We both worked in Timmins, and we never met each other in Timmins. Came all the way to Regina till we finally met each other in Regina way back when. We became good friends, golfing buddies, curlers, and on the sports beat for quite a many years. Warren was a good friend, and we had so many good times together. My condolences to all of you on losing Warren. That was way too soon and way too heartbreaking to see what happened. I wish only the best for you and your family going forward. We're all going to miss him, man. I didn't get to golf with him this summer, but last summer, sorry, but I was really looking forward to spending some time with him on the golf course. We spent a lot of fun out there, and one thing I always told people one thing about Warren, when you asked him about his golf game, he would tell you about his golf game, which was always interesting to hear about his trials and tribulations on the golf course. I know it's going to be hard for all of you going forward with this, and all the thoughts of the McCormicks, Marion, Megan, Mallory, and Meredith, and me are all with you. We all knew him. It's kind of funny that he knew everybody. And I know that Meredith and Braden, her husband, got to know him at Al Schick's Christmas parties, which were legendary for a lot of other reasons. And so was Woody. I was really impressed with all the support I've seen from everyone across the country and the province. Your dad was a very special man, and I feel very fortunate to know him, and I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him a lot. So thank you for this opportunity to shoot this video, and my thoughts are with you and your family at this tough time, and we'll see what happens. Follow me on Facebook. We can be friends, and we can keep in touch. So once again, my sincerest condolences for Woody. I always called him Woody. Everyone else called him Woodsy. He always like that. And Woody and I had many good times, and as I said earlier, I'm going to miss him. So thank you, and best of luck. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Murray Wood. I'm going to talk about something maybe a little different about Warren, something that just always amused him and could bring him an instant smile. That was cartoon characters. If Woodsy was ever not his usual cheery self, all he had to do was mention, Foghorn Leghorn or Yosemite Sam, and he'd instantly smile and start laughing, and then he'd go into these impersonations, hey boy, I'm talking to you, boy, or Snagglepuss, exit, stage left even. And it brought him nothing but joy and amusement, and amused me too. And so these are the sorts of things I think about when I think about Woodsy, and it's the positive memories. And Chris and Nicole and family, I hope that the positive memories will help sustain you through the coming days and as the years go forward.
Hey, it's my name's Ryan Muffenbar, but Warren knew me as Ryan Allen growing up in high school, being best friends with his daughter Nicole. And I'm going to take you back to that time that I had a few people over in high school for New Year's Eve. And whatever, Nicole was there, a few of our friends and stuff, and it was... I gotta do this right now. But Warren and Anne-Marie came to pick up Nicole and Laura and some of our other friends and take them back home, and Warren came down. He had a few wobbly pops, I guess, and came down and wished us all a Happy New Year. And that's just who Warren was. He was easily approached. Everybody loved him, and everybody's gonna miss him. And sitting here doing this video, it's really tough, and can't believe that he's gone. But that's who Warren was. That's one thing I loved about him, and I'm gonna miss him. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sam McKegg, and I was Woodsy's co-host on the CJME Morning Show for 5 years. But more importantly, Woodsy was my work dad. And I will not admit to you how many times I had to record this video, because what do you say about someone who is so important that they get the title of work dad even after they're not your work dad anymore? He was the best. And I remember when Jay, our boss at the time, came in and told me that Warren Woods was going to be part of our morning show, I was stunned, because Warren Woods, was a local legend. And I was shocked that he was willing to switch up his career and come over to radio and be part of our team. And it turned out to be the best thing ever. We had so much fun that it didn't feel like work, even though we got up so early in the morning. There are photos of him, though, asleep in the studio after a late night curling game. Those mornings were really, really rough for him. He loved nothing more than a good train rant, to the point that he literally petitioned the mayor at the time to try and get it moved, to get the tracks moved. Moose's Rocky and Bullwinkle were a go-to. He did a great Chef from the Muppets Impressions. But where he really sang was when he could talk to people in the community that were close to him, whether it was a curling event or a golf event or something with the Riders or the Pats. He was so passionate about local sports and seeing local athletes do well on a national level. And so in those days, I just sat back and watched. It was a masterclass in how to be a great sports journalist. On a personal note, I will miss the concerts. I will miss the phone calls. I will miss the nights sitting at the bar, catching up over life, the funny stories, having to fix his phone when he doesn't know what he did to it, but something's not working. He was a light, he was a force, he was a legend, and the world feels a little different. Like the energy's just a little bit off because he's not with us anymore. And I am so grateful that I've gotten to know Nicole and Chris, because they have kept me sane through all of this when they really didn't have to. Work dad and biological dad are not the same thing, but they really did keep me close and in the process. And for that, I will be forever grateful. I'm gonna miss him a lot.
Hello, everybody. Sarah here from Calgary, Warren's sister. This video, I thought I'd just put this little thing together for him. And I just want to say that this is from our entire family. Some are having technical difficulties. So anyways, I just wanted to say that this is the last place that I spoke with Warren, out here on my deck. But it was much sunnier. He was covering a football game. And we just shared so many fun memories of our family, including Christmases. He had so much to say. He reminded me of some fun times when I was little, told some really fun family stories. He also told me a lot about my dad, because he died when I was very young. Shared a lot of family stories that I missed out on because I was born much later. So anyway, but I just really wanted to say that he was the most fun-loving brother. He wanted me to know all his friends. He's like, Sarah, please come out to Regina, meet my friends, and new ones, old ones. And I really did try to do my best to get there. However, circumstances just didn't happen. They just didn't come around my way. But he did a lot of visiting here. And I just want to remember you, Warren, sitting here on my deck, sharing coffee, sharing cocktails, sharing music. Thank you for reminding me of all those fun times we had when we were young. For Paul and Phil and Karen, I wish that you could be here with me right now to share this video, but this is for you guys too. So anyways, happy Sunday. Warren, we're gonna miss you. We'll always have you in our hearts. You're with Mom and Dad, and Bill and Helen. Now you're at peace, and I will never ever forget you. Love you, brother. God bless.
Hi there. I have two really good memories of Woodsy. I mean, I have lots of memories, but two of my favorites. One is work related because I worked with him at CJME, and the other one is personal. So I'll start with the personal. We were both kind of orphans at Christmas, so always found ourselves together on Christmas Day having a meal. It was at our mutual friend Dougie J's house, and the first time I knew we were going to be together, I thought, well, this is brilliant because my mum and dad are going to be there, and my dad plays at the Royal, and Woodsy plays at the Royal. It'll be perfect. They'll get on. They love sport together. They can probably play, have beers together. My dad will finally make a friend. So it was a couple of hours into Christmas Day, and they were down with Dougie J in the basement where his bar was, and I went down to see how they were getting on, and it turned out they weren't at all because they got into a big debate about the merits of soccer/football, hence my Chelsea Football Club hat, because he always teased me about my love of football. And they weren't going at it, but they were having a good debate about the merits of it and whether it was a good sport, and Dougie J's there laughing, and I thought, oh brother, this is not going the way I wanted. Now, like 5 minutes later, they were having a beer together and being perfectly fine, but I remember thinking, oh God, I shouldn't have put these two together. My second memory, the work-related one, a few years back, Woodsy was asked to be MC at the Rolco Christmas party, and he got up there. And you know when you think something about your colleagues, but you've never had the guts to say them, managers, colleagues, whatever it was. Well, Woodsy got up there and said exactly what we all thought about everybody ever. And he got up and said it. Oh, I nearly died laughing. That my ribs hurt the next day from laughing too much. He just had the balls to say exactly what you've ever thought about a person, but never had the guts to say it. And he did it with such class and such humor. I will never forget that night. Favorite Woodsy moment. And I went up to him at the end and said, that was brilliant. You made the Christmas party. And he said, when you get to my age, you can say what you want. Yeah, when I grow up, I want to be just like Woodsy.
I'm very proud to know Woodsy and have worked with him. I worked with him 3 or 4 years on the Green Zone at the radio station, and there's a lot of memories of Woodsy. It's not hard to pick any of them. There's a lot to share. I kind of related to that child's toy where you put in the disc and you click the clicker and it shows you an image, and that's kind of how my brain works when it comes to memories of Woodsy and getting to know him. And that first picture is when I was told that Woodsy was joining the Green Zone, and I hadn't met him yet, and I just get told this, and my thoughts are instantly, I'm like, whoa, we're bringing in the big boys here. We're swinging for the fences. We're going all out to make this the #1 show. And then you meet him, and he's just this beauty of a dude, and it's wild. I kind of don't bring people in and accept a lot of people into my world and right away. It takes a while for me to kind of like feel them out, but that doesn't happen with Woodsy. Woodsy's in, and the guy is just, he's the man from the second he walks in. He doesn't have that ego. He never had it, but he fit in so well, and he made our show and our office legitimate, and that was like so comforting for me. My next little image of Woodsy is I took my daughter to her first Pats game, and we're finding our seats, and I happened to just get seats near Woodsy, and it was awesome. And my daughter was very young at the time, but I was like, that's Woodsy. I work with him. He's on the radio too with Jamie, and she's like, that's pretty cool. And it was awesome to watch and witness Warren Woods just enjoying the game, enjoying the time with the people he was with, and seeing the massive amount of people come up to him just wanting to shake his hand or buy him a beer or tell Woodsy how much they love him. That was like solidifying with me that, yeah, we're dealing with a legend here. This is a legendary guy. And it was awesome. For me, it was awesome to just kind of watch. That was unreal. And it made me really happy, because to me, that's one of the things where, you know, the guy put in his time, he put in his work, and he earned that right to be a legend and to be treated as such. It was awesome. I got lucky that within the years of working with the Green Zone, they ended up giving me and a friend our own show that aired during the Rider games. So nobody listened to it. And it was tough to kind of fill that time. And we were looking for something really big when halftime came up in these games, where we needed like a bit of a review and update on how the first half went and what to look forward to in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. And Woodsy was at the games, so I sheepishly asked him, even though I know he's crazy busy, plus I know he enjoys being around his friends and coworkers at the games, and I said, any chance you can call into my show and just give us a little update? And without hesitation, he was like, yeah, instantly, I'll do it. And I was so blown away, and me and Gary were so happy, and we got those updates, and I think that helped make our show legitimate as well. My favorite memory of Woodsy, and it's a selfish one, after I had to leave the radio station and the radio show, that part killed me, he was one of the first ones to reach out and make sure I was doing good. And we texted every now and then, and you know, if I heard something good on the show, I let him and Jamie know. And a couple years later, I get a call saying, hey, do you want to come back and kind of help us out and run the board a little bit? We're in a bit of a bind, and you know, you've got the experience and everything. And I was like, yeah, that would work. So they asked me to come in, and I got to the station, and they kind of said, let's go sit down in the meeting room. And I wasn't sure how I'd be received back in the building. I just kind of wanted to keep my head down and sneak in and sign whatever papers and then sneak out. And as I turned a corner, I heard that voice saying, don't you dare think you could sneak away from me. Get over here. And it was Woodsy. And that dude gave me the best hug, man. And I had heard that he was the name that threw my name out there to bring back to help out the station. And that meant that, you know, he thought I did a good job. And that meant the world to me. And he didn't have to do that. That's just a few of the amazing moments I've had with Warren Woods. We were all very lucky to work with him and get to know him and be friends with him and socialize with him and hang out with him and share a drink with him. And it was really awesome to watch him show off a little bit when he was talking about his children. Whenever he'd go for a golfing trip, or they would come to the city here and they'd go to the Queen City X, and he was a proud man, showing pictures and little videos of the fun they had and all the pictures they took. And I never took that for granted, because that's the dad that I am. And it was awesome to see him beaming with pride. We love you, Woodsy. We miss you. You'll never be forgotten. I love you, man.
Hi everyone, it's Suda from Montreal. Wow, I can't believe Woody is gone. For 4 years, Woody sat right across from me when I was working at Global Regina, and he was part of that sports pod. And I remember Krawchuk and Craig and Dino and Plaster, and anytime I mentioned Montreal, they'd be like, you know, but Woody was always, he would bug me too, but he was always such a comfort. And even when I moved back to Montreal, I would always get a lovely Facebook message on my birthday wishing me happy birthday. And I remember him still telling stories about some of my encounters when I was in Regina, like when I was at a shoot and I was in church and I had trouble recording a stand-up and I accidentally swore. It became part of the blooper tape. So I remember Woody telling stories about that. Well, I have a great story about Woody, about the 2003 Grey Cup, and he was live, and there was a talk about how Grey Cup has taken over the city, and an inebriated fan jumped onto the podium, and anyways, Woody was live, and he just took it all in stride, because that was Woody. And anytime I had a stressful day and I was rushing back into the newsroom, it was just always comforting to see Woody there. And it's sad that I won't get a post from him on my birthday on Facebook, because he connected with everybody, even a Montrealer like me. And Woody, I know you were always a Leafs fan, but I have to just bug you one more time, being the Habs fan that I am. Rest in peace, Woody, and we all love you.
Hi, I'm Twyla. I worked with Warren for about 6 years, and Warren was every inch the professional, and that nothing could really faze him when we were on the air. Sometimes we'd try, but we couldn't really faze him. He was such a genuine guy in that what you saw on TV or what you heard on the radio was exactly who he was. He didn't hide anything. He didn't pretend he was somebody else. He just was the goofy sports guy who's always around for a laugh. One thing I remember, and I can still hear him saying it so clearly, he kind of used it for pretty much any conversation. It always worked, is from the Champ, and he would respond to 50% of the conversations that he walked into or joined at the last minute with, "Us says, pardon?" And I can still hear him saying that. He was a great guy, and I know a lot of people are going to miss him. And I think it's hard because during these times right now, of course, I think there'd have been a big lineup outside any funeral for Warren, and so it's disappointing that we can't do that, but I know he'll be missed. Nicole and Chris, I lost my dad not too long ago, and I know what you're going through, and I know that it sucks. So just take care of yourselves, okay?
And the girls are out the bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. With Irish Jim O'Connell there and Scotty Jack McDonald, there's hunky Frederick Herschel getting tight, but that's alright. There's happy German Fritzy there with Frenchy getting tipsy, and even Joe the Gypsy knows it's Saturday tonight. Now when Mary Ann and Mabel come to join us at the table and tell us how the bingo went tonight, we'll look a fright. But if they won the money, we'll be laughing at the honey boys, 'cause everything is funny for it's Saturday tonight. Yeah, the girls are out the bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Saturday night. Ah, play it, girl. We'll drink the loot we borrowed and recuperate tomorrow, 'cause everything is wonderful tonight. We had a good flight.